Oh, and J Max disappeared. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is a fun night to be bringing to you a podcast tonight. I think J Max was having issues with his computer. Usually he's right next to me, but he's not. So without further ado, I'm going to chat to you a little bit about what tonight's all about. Tonight we will be chatting to Ian Mantgani. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Took me a few times to pronounce it myself because I'm the worst at pronouncing anything. I think I've actually got something. Like I've got some sort of condition where I can't pronounce anything, even the simplest of things. But tonight we have Ian on to talk about his film Nosepicker, and J Mac is back on the show. Where did you go?
I don't know. It just said, "Yeah, your browser cannot play this video." I was like, "I'll refresh it," and it's like, "You're not getting back in." But
beautiful.
So hopefully, I'll be up.
Lee McMaster says, "Evening, Kev. Nice to hear from you, Lee. Hope you're doing well, my friend." And it was me running solo there for a minute. I said Ian Mantgani. That's how you pronounce it, right?
I would go with that.
Right, so I know I'm right then. But we'll ask him in just a minute because he's coming on the show in just a minute to talk about Nosepicker, which, by the way, for me, when I seen that he had a film called Nosepicker, I was like, class, right up my street, right? And then I watched it and I was like, I get it totally. For me, it had a vibe of like Goosebumps meets Creepshow type feel to it. But I'm not gonna waste too much. We'll actually talk about it too, Ian. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the writer and director of Nosepicker, Ian Mantgani. I'm getting your name right, Ian, aren't I?
Oh yeah, you got there in the end, Mantgani. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Perfect. I always worry because
I've heard much worse pronunciations than that.
Oh, that makes me feel better as well because I sometimes struggle with just like Sylvester Stallone. Hey, J-Mac. Like even that'll get me sometimes. So you actually worked on a short film previous that we had on, which was the worm of what's the name of it again? The
worm of and Badass.
That's right. Because that took me a while. Before we done that show, I had to keep saying that.
Everyone a while who worked on it too, but once you know, you know.
I'm glad it makes me feel a little easier knowing that I wasn't the only one struggling with it. But that was a great film. So we had basically covered that during the Arrow short film special, and you essentially reached out to let us know that you had a film called Nosepicker available on Alter on the YouTube channel, which, by the way, is available in the comments section. You can see here. So everywhere that this is live, you can go ahead and click on that. Go ahead and watch it. Even put it on while you're here on the show tonight. Like Janice. Hi, Janice. Janice is from Indiana. She's all the way across the pond.
Where in Indiana? I've been to Indiana.
Oh, nice. You could have probably bumped into Janice.
Why have you never called her Indiana Jean? I've never thought of that before. It's just clicked.
Indiana Jean. That would make sense. So I checked out Nosepicker, and it's exactly up my street. Would it be fair to say that it is definitely in the same vein as stuff like Creepshow and Goosebumps? Was that your initial want for it?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I've never watched Goosebumps, but that kind of flavor. No, not really. I mean, I've seen bits of it. I mean, I think I'm just a little bit removed age-wise from the group that we watched that. But the equivalent things to it, Round the Twist and Eerie, Indiana, and stuff like that, and then grown-up versions of those kind of kids horror anthology things like Tales the Unexpected and Tales from the Crypt. Hitchcock Presents, all that kind of stuff. And in the vein of Roald Dahl, and then Creepshow is something that kind of really nicely straddles the line between horror for kids and horror for grown-ups, I think. I love the first Creepshow a lot. Second one I don't really care for. In fact, Creepshow came out the day I was born, so maybe it's something in it is in my DNA. Who knows?
And that there itself.
So it was Creepshow. Was Creepshow 1981, 82?
82. And then the second one, I think, I forget when the second one came out. Maybe 86 or 87. I'm not sure. But yeah, the first one was out at the end of 82. I really like it when people locate it in that kind of horror for kids, horror anthology kind of vein, because to me, that's what it always was. It's like a horror movie for kids, but a lot of people seem to think it's really intense and really disgusting, which I was surprised by. It's the issue, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I think like I watched it again just before coming on the show, and the whole collecting bogies is fucking gross, to be honest. And it's uncomfortable. These squidgy noises every time he puts a new one on the pile, and it's like,
the good thing though. But what Janice said there in the comments, right? She says, "I love this little movie. Kind of gross, but totally relatable." Right? So everybody's picked their nose at some point and went, "Right, where's Meg?" You know, and wiped it on something. Do you know what? Well, is the artwork, which you can see here in the, I don't know if it's my left or right, but down there in the corner under J Mac, the artwork for this actually has such an enchanted feel. Do you not agree, J Mac? Look at the colours.
Yeah.
You don't see a lot of films with this type of colours on the artwork anymore.
So this poster artwork was done by a guy in Strasbourg called Timothy Boubet. And you see a lot of, I mean, I wanted to go for that kind of like 80s genre movie poster kind of feel. But a lot of times when people do that now, they either do the Photoshop version of it and put like a stencil filter over it, or they'll do like an illustration, or sometimes they'll do a painted version. And that's not really what they did back then. They used to do airbrush art. And he's one of the few people still doing airbrush art at high quality, and he's mainly a graphic designer, and he kind of does kind of abstract posters for gigs and albums, electronic music and stuff like that. And it has a kind of dreamy quality, but it also has the technical flavor of like those posters you used to see by Drew Struzan, people like that. And I think those two things combined in a quite haunting way. I mean, I love that image. I think he did such an amazing job.
It's something that definitely stands out. I love that color of the green. J-Mac and I talk about that like often. Like older 80s, mainly in the 80s, early 90s horror would have like that glowing green, or the part in Hocus Pocus where the floorboards move and you see the color come from under it. Like it's missing today, I think. Actually, what was the film that it came back in, J-Mac? We watched something and we're like, there it is.
Oh, was it the green or the purple? Because there was a kind of shade of purple that's it's like the same color as the Dark Crystal was.
Yeah.
I can't remember it. Oh God, it may have. It'll come back to me. It will come back to me before we finish this show, because it does.
Recent or what?
Yeah,
it was something we covered. We cover so many different films that it's kind of escaped us right now. But there was a film we watched, and when we realized that they had that color in the movie. After we were like, here, we never see this anymore. We were really happy to talk about that. Matthew Min in the comments, he's our fella. He does some amazing artwork. He says, evening fellas, just popping in to say, short was awesome, proper icky, felt like it would fit in nicely in the recent Creepshow episodes on Shudder. Now back to the footy.
You traitor, man.
In the time we've talked, Spain scored. I don't know when that happened.
That's right, Spain have scored. So Scotland.
Oh no! What a shame! Oh,
I appreciate that, Matthew. Thank you. I haven't seen that Creepshow show. Is it good?
I've not seen the new one yet, but I am going to check out when I get time. Definitely.
Yeah.
Matthew, you let us know if it's good.
So, where did the inspiration for this come from? Were you a Nosepicker as a child?
I mean, no more than anybody else. I like Janice's comment. This one was related to anyone who has ever been bullied. I think that the bullying is more important than the nose picking in a sense.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, you know, when you write something and make something, it takes on a life of its own, and you forget where it came from. Where it came from was actually I sat down and really, in a kind of contrived way, actually tried to think, well, what's something gross that kids would like? And the reason was because I was going to adapt. I mean, I have it in mind to make a movie of the Twits one day, the Roald Dahl story.
Oh, that's not been done, right?
No, exactly. It's never been done. I think John Cleese was trying to do it at one point. For some reason, it fell through. And I was going to adapt a Roald Dahl story that was previously done as a Tales of the Unexpected episode with Derek Jacobi called Skin. And it's not one of his kids' things. But I thought, let me try and tackle something of the Dahl world to just try my hand at it and kind of like put my name to it. And then maybe this will be. I thought it'd be a good idea to do it again. I thought it was a story that would lend itself to being adapted in different time periods. And I also just kind of, in a kind of business-minded way, thought, well, let me get my name associated with Dahl somehow. And the very week I was going to write to the Roald Dahl estate, they sold the whole catalog to Netflix, so that was gone. Oh. So I thought, well, I've got Roald Dahl in my head now. Let me do something else of that kind of flavor. And I thought, well, I want to do the Twits one day. Let me do something disgusting that involves kids. What do kids like? Kids like bogeys and blood and guts and carnage. And that's basically where it came from. And then from then, this was, I think, at some point during either during a lockdown or between the lockdowns. So I was at home a lot watching loads of Tales of the Unexpected. So that whole kind of structure was really kind of fresh in my mind. So once I got the idea, okay, I'm going to do something gross involving nose picking and blood and guts, then the whole thing kind of wrote itself from there.
What did you use?
I was not a huge nose picker as a child, but
I had to ask.
All the nose pickers out there, there's no shame in it.
In the yearbook, yes, he was a very well-known nose picker. So Janice says, I really felt for this little boy, especially after seeing what he goes through at home. Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, you're seeing a journey of a kid that, I mean, it's not really his fault that what happens. Like he's just, I don't know, because I believe certain films are always open to interpretations, right? So there's parts of the short film, without giving too much away, where it does make you think, well, wait a minute, he's in control of that, just certain facial expressions. And then there's parts that makes you think, well, it's taken on a life of its own. When you were writing it, was there an idea for what kind of entity it would become, or did it kind of just stem from something he would have liked to have done? Because I imagine, like, for someone that's being bullied, the number one thing they'd want to do is be like, have Superman powers for a day, go and just like blast Homelander vision through somebody's face type thing.
Well, I mean, to some extent, I don't want to give a definitive take on the subtext, because that would, like you say, it's open to interpretation, and that might spoil it for people who have one interpretation over another. But the other thing is kind of like, I'm kind of in the same position as you. As I'm kind of like, when you're writing a story, you're kind of like, so much of it is unconscious. You're almost transcribing these. David Lynch talks about catching ideas that are in the air. The ideas are there. Your job is just to catch them. And I do feel like you're just a conduit for the idea. And in the same way, this little boy is like a conduit for this kind of demonic revenge thing. I mean, look at Carrie. To what extent is Carrie acting on agency? Like, in Carrie where you think, okay, she really wants to do this revenge, and there are some bits where you feel like she's almost powerless about the forces that are going through her. And I think it's the same thing with Georgie. To some extent, this force that is outside of his control, or that is using him as a vessel, is kind of acting on his most taboo impulses to get revenge. But in a way, he kind of does and doesn't have culpability. I think that there is an ambiguity there, and I think it's best to just leave it as an ambiguity. It's and that's kind of the fun of it in a way.
Totally,
and then at the end, it's like, well, okay, he does that sniff and he has that little smirk on his face. He's clearly very satisfied that he has gotten his way, or something has gotten its way on his behalf. But does that mean it's about to happen again, or does that mean it's finished? You don't know.
Yeah, I think there's, so when you say Carrie there, so Carrie, the way I kind of relate that to Matilda. So Matilda's dealing with a lot of shit, and she gains these powers. And Carrie's dealing with a lot of shit, and she gains some sort of something. And it's the same here. It's almost like I don't know, just evening the scales a little bit. I quite like the idea of being able to, almost like the universe trying to tip the scales back for the wee guy.
Yeah, I think that's really well put. It's a kind of karmic thing, and how much he has control over it is almost immaterial. It's just these forces that are beyond us, in a sense. We're a part of them, but they also exist outside of us, and they overlap.
Yeah, I also.
So, how did you go about casting this? I mean, for a short film, it's only 15 minutes long, nearly 16. You've got a lot of kids in this, and I know it can be really difficult to find the right kids to play these roles. How was your casting process developed?
Lots of people wonder about this. I have to say that, finding the right kids was difficult, but working with kids was really no more difficult than working with grown-ups, because everybody has their own idiosyncrasies. Everybody's difficult in their own little way. That kid who's on the screen now, who plays Cressida, Chloe Hinksman, she was a little star. She was a little pro. She came in and she knew the script off by heart. And I asked her to do a little improv and say, what would you do if you were queen of the world? And she was like, well, I'd make sure I didn't sit next to any kids named Georgie, and then I'd make it illegal to pick your nose and all that. And she had she was so great. And the lead kid, it was more about his look, which was fine because he was kind of separate from everybody else, and I think that adds to it. And he didn't have any acting experience really. He was a model, and that's why he was on the casting books. And they almost didn't want to put him up for the film. And we lobbied pretty hard to get him to audition. Then he came in and did an audition, and he didn't really know what he was doing. And I really had my hopes set on that kid. We tried him again, and he was better. And so it's just, but that's just like casting any actors really. Sometimes it's so hard to find the right person to just kind of scratch to give you the flavor that you want. Like one thing I hadn't anticipated was we got loads of people who were really good at doing the school counselor and could give you all different interpretations of it, and they were all great. And nobody seemed to be able to play the teacher. And I would say to people, well, don't play it too overbearing. This is supposed to be the whole point of this character is she's like this kind of like patronizing, kind of like posh, liberal, English rose kind of person. And it's this kind of person who thinks they're being really nice, but actually you can't trust them. I don't even know how much that comes across in the film, but it's supposed to be a very insidious kind of annoying character. Not like, it's not supposed to be like the headmistress out of Matilda. It's supposed to be other than that. But everybody came in, but it was really bossy like this, and I was like, well, that's. And I just hadn't anticipated that the school counselor has loads of dialogue, so obviously you can riff on that how you want. And this was a more kind of ethereal idea of the way I was trying to get the teacher to be played, and some people just didn't get it. But you asked about the kids. The kids were great, and like a lot of these kids hadn't been in film, so they were just really excited to be there, and they were really hardworking. And there was one day when the kids kind of got a bit irritated with all the waiting around on a film set. The extras we had what I called the Haribo mutiny, where somebody said, "Listen, if you're good and you wait another 20 minutes, you can have Haribo." And then they all kind of like instantly unionized on the spot. And they were like, Haribo. Until they got fed bags of Haribo.
That's what I do with Jay Mack.
I'd be a Haribo man. Tank Fastics all the way.
Yeah, exactly.
But they were great. It's just like casting anybody. You've just got to keep looking for the right person. It can be really frustrating. I think we got there. This movie has a really good cast, actually.
Yeah. Was there any, did you run into any big challenges within filming? We've made a film ourselves, a short film or two, and one of our issues that we found was essentially just getting everybody together at the right time in order to get it done, which extended how long it took us to do it. What were your biggest challenges filming this, or even taking it from its infancy to where it is now?
Yeah, that always is a problem, trying to get everyone together, especially when you just kind of make it a film with your mates, because if people aren't professionals and they're not getting paid, then you feel like they're taking it a little less seriously, and you're very tense as to whether everyone's going to show up and blah, blah, blah. And the funny thing is, I raised some money for this film, and I put some of my own money into it, and this was like a budgeted film. But what's funny when you make a so-called professional film is you run into a lot of the same problems that you do when you're running around with your mates. And so, in fact, sometimes all the apparatus that you get, you think, okay, this is going to be proper now. This is going to be easier to do. Sometimes it actually gets in the way, and sometimes people who are professional, it's their bread and butter. So they're like, well, that rate doesn't suit me, and we're gonna have to bring union rules in here, and a lot of the same problems you run into, you just run into them in a different way. Nothing's ever easy, and everybody who comes to the set has their own needs and their own schedule, and everybody's got their own personality, and sometimes the personalities clash. The biggest thing which was a problem was the special effects. Now, when I conceived this film, I thought, okay, this is a spoiler now, but hopefully everybody who's listening to an hour-long podcast on the film has watched the 15-minute film. Basically, the big special effect is it's the blob. It's the fucking blob, which they did in the How hard can it be? We have documentation on how they did it. It's doable, and yet maybe not. We ran into various issues with the special effects. We had to do a special effects unit separate from the main thing because we ran out of time, and the special effects guy didn't have the special effects ready. And then then he dropped out, and somebody else came on, and he produced a blob that basically didn't look like the same blob from shot to shot. So we had to shoot that again. And by this point, we were way over budget. I shouldn't say that because I'm not for a job, but at this point, just pretend I didn't say that. But at this point, it was going on a little longer than we wanted it to, and we finally got it. But practical effects not easy, and actually, this might be something instructive to anybody who wants to do a practical effects. Sure, I kind of thought, okay, well, it's known knowledge, therefore we can do it again. We just go by the book. Like I'm not, we're not creating anything new here. We're kind of like this throwback special effects. But then I went back and I did a deeper dive into how they did the effects on the Blob and Gremlins and all this. And you listen to like some of the audio commentaries, and they're like, "Yeah, this was a really tough shoot, and we went over budget. we were making it on the day, and then we had to reshoot it, and the studio was going crazy." And I'm like, "Well, if I'd known this, maybe I wouldn't have been so cocky about the whole thing."
If I was to make a film like this with essentially the Blob, Flubber's cousin, I would assume that I could just go to like any local B&M store, buy all that stuff that my kids are forever getting stuck into my carpet, the slime, mold it, and then leave it out so that it dries. You know how you get that? And I think if it dries to a certain shape, then maybe we've got something we can play with. Just pop a couple holes in there and then put some lights that you can control. That would be I can imagine it's nowhere near as easy as that.
The framework that you lay out is basically what we kind of like established in our first special effects meetings and what we said in our first special effects brief. Now, when you dig into all the specifics of that, what's the stuff? What are the lights? How do you puppeteer it? From what angles can we show it? How do we make things of various scale so that it'll match? This is where you kind of run into problems. These are all solvable problems. It just kind of like, just budget versus particular team members versus time versus pressure. It just kind of like, it kept slipping out of our hands, so to speak. And then it took us a while to get where we wanted to be.
I'm quite opportunistic. What I would do, right? See if we were going over budget, I would just go like this. Right, guys. We're going to go proper, what was the first film that I thought? We're going to go Jaws on this, guys. So we as the audience don't see the blob, right? The characters do. And then you just get a big green light. So it's always point of view. Yeah.
Kev, maybe you should be a producer, because that's what my producer said. He was like, at a certain point when we were the second reshoot, he was like, what if we don't even see the blob?
Which sometimes is more effective, right? Sometimes.
But I really wanted to do that kind of like, the blob, and also From Dusk Till Dawn. You know, when you get like this slow build of tension, and then you just go pure silly with it. You take it. But I really wanted to deliver, and I thought I thought it might cut together in too obscure a way if it became. It might have been more scary. Who knows? But like I thought it'd just be too esoteric if you didn't see it. I thought you needed the payoff of seeing the.
Yeah. I enjoyed the payoff.
I think it wouldn't work as well as something that was like kids horror. In kids horror, you have to see the thing.
Yeah,
it's different when you get any more kind of grown up stuff. But when it's a kids horror thing, whether it's Goosebumps or Are You Afraid of the Dark or what was it? Was it Tales of the Unexpected? You said anyway. You need to see the thing. If you don't see the thing, it's like, well, that was crap. So you probably went in the right direction on that one.
Oh yeah. Here's a question for you. Do you anticipate kids seeing this? Is that something you want kids to watch?
Well, the kids who were in the movie saw it, and they really enjoyed it. In fact, they weren't shocked by it at all. All the adults were walking around like, I don't think I'm going to eat for the rest of the day. And the kids just like... the thing I was really disappointed by, because you've got all those kids who are kind of the background artists in the classroom, right? All the classmates. They were all part of like a theatre troupe that often rehearses in that school that we shot in the school hall out in Surrey. And I really wanted them to come, and I had this idealized vision of like, okay, we're going to do the cast and crew screening, and this whole room's going to be going bananas with screaming kids. It's going to be great. But then they couldn't come because it was like their final show or something that day. So that was sad. So only the kids who had the speaking parts came. But yeah, I mean, this was a movie made for kids, and there's this whole argument going on the YouTube channel with like, I don't think this is a good movie for kids. Well, I don't think adults will show their kids this film, and I'm there being like, hey guys, writer director of the film, I'm quite happy for your kids to watch this. I think kids don't get enough credit for liking gross stuff. I mean, like that. Look,
I'm a 90s kid
because we're all overgrown kids who like watched fucking The Exorcist or whatever when we were
Critters.
Yeah.
Yep. So I totally agree. I think there's certain films your kids can watch. It's funny, Matthewman, right? He texted me a couple of weeks back, and I can't remember the specific film, right? But he goes, his daughter is old enough to watch a film, but he's still very much like, here, what's in it? And he goes, he says, is there any naked scenes in it? I goes, nah, just a guy getting ripped arsehole for earhole. And he goes, right, that's fine, she can watch it.
I mean, the sensibilities of their kids, and also parents have things they do or don't want their kids to watch. But just saying kids can't watch this is too blanket a statement. But that's the attitude that like that's a horror dad attitude, right? But there'll be some parents also who even say, "Oh, I don't mind my kids seeing nakedness or sex because we'll talk about it openly, and they know it's not, but they know it's something they have to learn as a grown up." Who knows? I don't know. I think it's fine for kids to watch other kids killing kids with bogey monsters. That's my point.
Do you know? I think there's potential for this to go anywhere. Like, so you've established what the creature is. We've yet to see what it can really do. I envision like if this was a series, which it could very well be, there could be a Nosepicker Part 2 type thing, right?
Arsewiper. Let's go Arsewiper.
Okay. The cameras. Oh, England scored. There you go.
Oh, wow. It sounded like it.
I know. Live on the show. Here we go.
Watch this. Disallowed. Disallowed.
Let's see. The camera assistant, when he came to the cast and crew screening, was saying there should be a sequel called Wanker, and I was just like, that's only kind of the context of it. You don't really need to do that.
At least the creature would be easier to create.
That's right.
It's all one color. J Mac's dressed as it right now.
You are one band of a special effects artist. We could have the real Nosepicker in it. It's like the animated series.
I think see if the bogies were to infect people to the point their eyes turn green and they're almost now like
zombies.
In a trance. Kind of, like they're now under control. Like like Ivan Ooze in the Power Rangers movie.
Okay.
Great film. The same way that he controls everybody because they take the ooze that he gives to everybody for free and it zaps through the fingers and then essentially it's like a virus.
Okay.
I mean that would be pretty interesting. That's kind of my mind wanders when there is. Did you have any bigger plans for Nosepicker?
I'm now imagining myself in a pitch meeting being like, it'd be cool. It'll just be like Ivan Ooze in the Power Rangers.
And something in there about
I wasn't even born when the Power Rangers movie came out.
Really? I was born when it came out though, so that makes me feel old.
That was 30 years ago now. I think 94 was it?
I think it was 94. So I was. Was it 96?
Maybe.
I thought it was.
I think it was 95.
You got IMDb open?
No, I'm not cheating.
It was 95. Apparently, there was one in 2017 as well, but that passed me by.
Oh yeah, that was terrible.
95 was the TV series.
Oh, okay.
Here we go.
The movie was. Oh, the movie was.
Yeah, the movie was 95 as well.
Was it?
It all happened really fast.
It was.
Phenomenon. It probably
It
felt
did.
to us because we was kids, but
yeah, time definitely goes a lot slower when you're a kid.
Yeah, it feels like a whole era when it was probably just a term.
Yeah,
that's mental. That's shocked me. That's.
But the most important thing was I was right. It was 1995. So,
but you know what, right?
Thank you.
Another thing that will really, really shock the system here, right? The 2000s to where we are now, right, is further than what when we were in the 2000s than what the 80s were. That's scary.
Yeah,
scary.
I think. Yeah, we're closer to 2050 than 1990 now. That's pretty naff.
It's a scary time. So did you have? I know. Tell me about it.
Part of that is because we're getting old, and because our generation was kind of like, I don't know, primed to be in a state of arrested development. But another reason is just the culture doesn't move as fast. Everything has become digitized and more kind of like, I don't know. I guess the economy's become more atomized or whatever. But there hasn't been like a great transformational cultural moment except for everything going online and going digital, and then all the kind of the big cultural things that we get from, for example, Hollywood studios is all rehashing of things that were there when you were allowed to make original properties. So it's a reason that the sense of time passing is skewed. It's because everything's shit. Everything's shit.
It's true. It's true. We were the last generation to ever know what it was like growing up without the internet. We had it and we didn't have it.
Yeah.
No one else can ever say that. Ever. Scary, isn't it?
Well, it's just a whole different gravy, isn't it? I just don't know what it feels like. Because I remember sitting around twiddling my thumbs, wondering what it'd be like if I could go on the computer and there was magic in there, and then it came.
Or looking forward to going. You look forward to going at the Blockbuster where you could take one VHS home and that would be you for a week on the same film, right? And now it's like, I don't know what to watch on fucking Netflix.
I think we're spoiled. We're spoiled for choice now as well. Like if you get 15 minutes into something and it hasn't grabbed your attention, you change it. Whereas before, when you'd rented it, you had to stick with it. You'd spent your money and that's all you had for that night. And eventually,
like it.
If you stick with it, it might get good. But there's so many films and TV shows that might actually be good that we just don't give the time of day because the first 15 minutes didn't grab us.
Well, do you know the other thing about that is the thing that I feel the most sorry for people who in the internet generation is I think we was probably the last generation in the UK at least to grow up where there was a real sense of discovering movies on broadcast TV and discovering something that wasn't just kind of like. You had more arts on TV, and there was just I get like Movie Drone was a gateway to TV. Now you can find any movie at the touch of a button, but you wouldn't know.
Pretty much. Yeah. Zombie Pit Ripper too.
How would you know to look for Repo Man? Like I was just like,
great film.
Great exactly. Film. But I only know Repo Man because I was like, I had my TV on too late at night when I was supposed to be asleep, and it comes on BBC Two.
Yeah, it's crazy, when you think about that.
Yeah.
What about the films you discovered, right? But you couldn't press any button on your TV to figure out what the film was. So you watched it, enjoyed it, and then never knew what it was. Never again. You could never find it again. Zombie Tit Ripper 2. I remember watching a film. A zombie literally ripped a woman's tits off. And
I'm sorry, what TV channel was that on?
I think it was. What was that crazy horror one that was on Sky? What was it? What was it called again?
There's the horror channel. There was Bravo.
What was it? It was full of mad horror on it. There was this one channel, and it was like you knew that when you turned it on, you were not getting Halloween or Psycho. It was always some mad shit.
So what era are we talking about now? Is this early 2000s or what?
Early 2000s, definitely. It would have been 2006, 7-ish, around about that time.
I don't even know.
It was an old horror channel. It was like, and it had the word horror in it. If anybody watching this at home or listening would please let us know. What is it? It was something horror. And you would always turn it on and go, is it love horror or something like that?
Shite horror?
No, there was a channels, and you would get films like Satan's Little Helper, Tire, Rubber. You get rubber on it. Tire. It's where you would get.
Wait, so is this channel still on?
I don't think so, because I've not heard it being talked about in years. But I don't ever remember it shutting down either. It was a mad channel, and how it happened was this: I was at my friend's, Todd's, and downstairs, his dad had connected it so that whatever you watch downstairs is also up in his room, right? So I was up in his room where the TV was on, something mad, so just something different, right? He went down the stairs and changed the channel, so it changed the one I was watching, and I just saw this girl like, ah! And she's like bare-breasted, and the zombie's like, ah, and just grabs her breast and is like ripped right off. And I could hear him laughing down the stairs, and I'm laughing my head off upstairs. And I was like, I wish I knew what that film was called.
I wish I knew what was wrong with you.
Zombie Tit Ripper 2. So that's what we called it. Matthew Mann actually created. I'll send you after this, right? Matthew Mann created.
That's a beautiful story.
Know, right? That's what this podcast is built on, foundation.
I guess that could still happen if somebody like airdropped onto the wrong TV or something. I like to think the accidents include kids' minds still.
Well, we could provide that as a service. Just hire us to come out and randomly cast something to your TV at 8:30.
That's like the real Cecil B. Demented kind of like rogue style of film programming. I'm going to go around and I'm going to beam cult films into individual people's houses. It'd be like the opposite of the TV license fans. I'm going to go and give you TV you didn't need.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great idea. Actually, I think that could catch on.
Fantastic.
Go out and do it right now.
Right, I'll meet you in Birmingham.
There's a service similar. Jay Mack sent to my house. It was a DVD case that was meant to be like old lady porn, but inside it was basically for the postman. So the postman would think that I've ordered old lady porn, and my wife looked at it and was like, "What the fuck, old lady porn?" But it was a joke, right? But inside they actually give you a real film, a random disc, and for me it was The Men Who Stare at Goats. No far from lady porn, right? But the thing is, what if you got like a joke box, right, that was to wind up your friend, but it had some mad zombie tit ripper too? That's probably more realistic, where you order a random DVD and you know it's going to be mental horror, like The Beaster Bunny, Crispy's Curse, Killer Pinata, all these films.
You know what? That actually reminds me of like the opposite situation was often. You know, like we were getting all nostalgic and misty eyed for like the 80s and 90s a minute ago. But one of the problems with that whole video boom era was sometimes you'd get the great cover art, and then the movie would be kind of crap. You just wouldn't know. We
talk about that all the time.
It was like, and whether it was good or bad, the flavor of the cover often didn't correspond to the movie whatsoever.
Always.
Like, whatever this is, like I made up a different movie in my head, and I just wish I could see that movie.
Yeah, I think the Beaster Bunny, which Kevin mentioned a second ago, that's one we came across on Amazon Prime, and the cover art. It looks, I mean, it doesn't look good looking at the cover art. It looks fun, right? It's a good bit of art. But then when you actually see what the Beaster Bunny actually is in the movie, it's so misleading. But it's so misleading that it's funny. But have you got it? Have you got it?
No, for context, there's another film we watched which was hilarious. I just saved the images there to give you a great representation of that, but different type of. I'll screen share. Right, there's a film we watched as a watch along called Velocipaster, right, and it lends to exactly what you just said. The fact that Velocipaster has a phenomenal. I don't know if you can see that here. Is it? There we go. A phenomenal poster. You see this poster art right here. And in reality, look at the film.
Look, that has a charm, but it's a different kind of charm. It's a whole different. To be honest, like Beaster Bunny, I prefer the poster to the screenshots. Velocipaster, I think I prefer that screenshot. It has a little kind of Carnosaur kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, it was really good fun. But the thing is, there's actually a shot in the film.
Around it. I don't know. Okay.
There's a shot in Velocipaster where it actually comes up. I think a car's supposed to have exploded. Obviously, they never had the budget to blow up a car, so they'd filmed the street. And the intention was obviously to add in the burning car later, and it just says SFX to be added. Like they haven't even finished the fucking film, and they still released it. But it was really good fun.
It is, and I think that's part of the charm is just taking creativity and knowing where to go with it. See, when you created Nosepicker,
you could have put SFX to be added. Shit, I didn't think of that.
Well, like I say, you use the wee green light and just work around it.
Just a picture of you holding the green light.
We had a lot of green lights on set. Don't worry, we even had which is the right light and which will be match that and a different angle and all this. This paperwork.
Did you know that you were like, so when you get films that are like Velocipaster that are just batshit, and the director and the writer knows it's batshit, right? Then you get films, for me, with Nosepicker, I don't believe it's to be batshit at all. I think that it has to have that creepshow feel to it. So was that your intention? It definitely wasn't to go batshit, and it wasn't to go too serious either. It was to be quite down the middle. Was that intentional for you?
I mean, it's like the flavor is comic horror, so it's kind of like it's just like bending reality enough that it feels. It kind of like has a kind of bubblegum pleasure, but it's a bit more intense than that as well.
Yeah,
you got like all those horror anthology shows and kind of Carrie as well are great models for that, where it's you're not going overly camp and you're not being pretentious and sterile either. That's the idea.
You do get films where the director or writer has tried to make it amazing. Samurai Cop for a great example, with the director.
Samurai Cop on this pod, not this pod, but on the pod a few times. And
yeah.
You know what? I really need to see Samurai Cop. I've never seen it.
Have you not seen it? Oh, Samurai Cop is phenomenal. It's the best serious film that was never serious, and we've actually had the guy from it on this show. After we reviewed Samurai Cop, tore it to pieces lovingly, and then next week he came on. It was awkward and mentally funny at the same time, but he's such a nice guy. The guy is such a nice guy. But you definitely need to check that out.
Is it just one the film? Or is there several?
They made a second one years later, but doesn't have the same thing.
Yeah, it did. I think the second one they tried to make a silly film, and that's where they went wrong. And the first one he was trying to make an all-American action movie. This guy, it was an Iranian guy, and he was trying to make what his interpretation of an American action film would be. And it's awful, but it's fantastic at the same time. The second one, they tried to do that same formula again, and it didn't quite land, and it gets a bit spacey and silly.
That never works. I mean, when you kind of like, when you're too in on the joke, it just comes across as really smug and kind of pointless, and you're wasting everyone's time. It's like
they actually brought in Tommy Wiseau for the sequel. That's how much they knew they were making something ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just like all that in-jokey stuff is a bit too kind of like epic sauce kind of to me, and it's just I don't like it. But when somebody really tries and they just don't have the chops to pull it off, but there is some sincerity behind it, that kind of beating heart counts for a lot. It's like Miami Connection is by no standard a kind of like a well-crafted drama, but like it's so moving because there's so much sincerity in it behind all the corniness.
There's literally a part in Samurai Cop where the stunt guy goes on fire and falls to the ground, and he was supposed to be put out, and because he's not been put out, you see him in the actual film going like, "What the fuck? Like, put me out!
Somebody put me out!"
His character's dead, but he's like dead, and then like, right, is somebody gonna put me the fuck out?
And he's a different skin color to the guy that actually was supposed to be on fire. It's fantastic, man. You need to watch it.
It's that version of Will Ferrell in the Dr. Evil. So go, I'm very badly burned.
That's right. It's pretty much that. It is absolutely that.
Okay.
Do you have bigger plans for Nosepicker?
Hopefully, I mean, it's done pretty well for a short film. I mean, it played the two festivals I most wanted it to show was Beyond Fest and Fright Fest in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And it showed both those, and it showing in Beyond Fest gave me an excuse to go to LA, where I hadn't been since I was a little kid, and that was a great adventure.
Nice.
And it's gonna. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I guess I'll say it anyway. It's gonna be on Arrow Player later in the year.
Hey, I bet Kev was just about to just say, "Well, you should try and get it on Arrow Player."
I swear, I was about to say. I literally was going to say, I'm surprised I haven't seen this on Arrow Player because it is in that vein, most definitely. How did you go about landing on Alter's radar?
They contacted us. I think those guys are pretty good about scanning the festival circuit for horror shorts that are coming up, and then requesting to see them, and then picking things that fit. I mean, being a YouTube channel, I think they tend to go for more attention grabbing kind of things and gross kind of things. So not every good horror film will land up on Alter, but like a lot of interesting things do. It's an interesting channel. I mean, that's how the original short film of Piggy, I think, was kind of popularized through Alter. Which then became a feature film.
That's right.
I remember Piggy. That was was it Martin Compston? It was in Piggy.
Yes, and it's basically a few of the guys from like Football Factory, but they're playing it quite serious. But yeah, they're still
if it's a film.
The guy goes to get a kebab and gets stabbed. Right.
We're talking about a different film. I'm talking about like a Spanish film that's like about an overweight girl bullied.
I'm thinking
Piggy.
of actual.
Need to catch that one.
Piggy. There's another Piggy, which is the one I just described. The guy gets done in. I'll need to check that one out. The other Piggy.
The Piggy for me growing up was the Piggy for Lord of the Flies. That was my Piggy.
Oh yeah, of course. No, I know the one you're talking about. This is different. This is
right.
I see. Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's. This film, I think, is sort of dislodged that as being the main Piggy reference in my head. But
so when you go to Arrow Player, does that mean you will cease to be on Alter, or you can still?
No, it's a non-exclusive. It's a non-exclusive deal, so so they can. Anybody can have it. My main ambition was to be on the Jibber Jabber podcast, so you know.
Hey, and that means loads to us, because one of the best things that we do is all the time we get to speak to so many interesting people, see so many films, because like you say, watching films, it's like 90% of what J Mac and I watch through this podcast, we would never have located this if the podcast wasn't here, if there wasn't distribution companies contacting us saying, would you like a screener of this? Would you like to speak to the writer director? And I love when we watch something and we love it and we get to actually have a conversation with the people that make it. I mean, for us, that's the beauty of it. But what I do love is the fact that we get to not only discover these films, but we get a chance to speak to other people about them and say, because that's essentially how I watch most of my films. It'll be my friends. Oh, you need to check this out. It's amazing. And if you get there's a group of friends where you're like, if they say it's shit, you know it's shit. If they say it's good, you've got to watch it. You know what I mean? You discover that within the kind of rapport you've got. So for us, that's like truly is like.
It's a little bit like you just got me like on a whole reverie about kind of how we decide what to watch, what we do watch, and when do we find time for it. I mean, it's like J Mac was saying before that just we're so inundated with content and we're so fitful with our attention spans now because we're always on our phones and computers that sometimes you do only give 15 minutes to something, or sometimes it can feel hard to just click play on something because you just don't know if you commit your time. You have this kind of just this weird ADHD relationship to everything now. I was going to ask you guys a question, actually, like with distributors contact you all the time and stuff. And how do you decide what to watch, and how much would you say you consume on a given week? Do you have time in the evening where you can sit down and watch something, or is it as and when, or do you watch something every night, or how does it work?
Well, for me personally, it's a case of my wife is very understanding of the fact that I do this podcast and that sometimes I get sent stuff. So basically, if we get sent it, I will make time to watch it. We won't always end up reviewing it, depending on how many films have been sent that week and the quality from one to the next. But whatever we get sent, I will watch everything.
All right.
Wow, that's the thing though. That's why I asked, because it's a lot, and and I'm sure you get burned a lot of the time, and it's a bit of a double-edged sword, because you can watch everything and find yourself kind of thinking, why am I watching all this? But then if you don't, you're going to miss something really good at the same time.
Well, here I tend not to miss a lot, because everything that you see right now, essentially, I produce and design all this, right? So I won't design the episode until I've watched the content, because there may be something on there that I want to represent on the screen to talk about, but I won't know that until I watch it. For me, I've got quite a busy life, but the same as J Mac. If we get sent something, whether it's stay up later, get up earlier, or while I'm making the dinner with the earpods on, watching it on my phone, we never not watch anything. Usually they'll send us and sometimes it's a really heavy week where we've done it where we've done nearly a podcast a night, J Mac, with different directors and stuff. It can fluctuate, but we actually find that a lot of distribution companies, they contact us, so from nowhere or whatever, and we are always open to watching it, absolutely everything. So anybody that was to contact us, whether it's a distribution company or someone that made something for 20 quid, we would still go, oh yeah, definitely, let's watch it. Our biggest challenge is when we don't like something. How do we so if we don't like something, there's one time where specifically J Mac and I went, that was a pile of fucking shit, right? And it's actually almost offensive with how fucking shit it was, right? But I thought, when we said to the at that time was a marketing guy, we said to him, look, J Mac said, we don't think we can do this because it was so shit, right? We disagree with everything in it, right? It
was politically very challenging for
it was
me.
Ridiculous. It was ridiculous. But what I said to Jay, I phoned J Mac and I said, do you know what? I says, let's do it. I says, because I actually want to test how well we can be a podcast and how of a positive show we can have with something that we fundamentally disliked, right? And
that's not why you're here, by the way. Just in case.
But if you went back and watched that episode, you would see.
Are you able to tell me what it was, or are you still feeling?
It's a film called Justice on Trial.
Okay.
And it was made.
And when you reviewed it, when you did the episode, did you find yourself dialed back a bit? Because I think a lot of workaday critics they would see that as an opportunity to kind of be really sarcastic and put the boot in, and it sounds like you were really trying to avoid that. There was decent about the whole thing.
There was one point.
Kevin put together a TikTok of one moment where it was wildly or mildly sarcastic, but it was in such a subtle way. But it is hilarious looking back on it. But no, we were actually we were just receptive. There's no point in coming on to do a podcast like this just to be a dick.
Oh no. And another thing as well, we approached it from the standpoint, this guy's put his money into making a film, right? Regardless of what it's about and how well it was executed or not. The fact that he done it, what was his processes? Let's talk to him about if I had to learn something from this guy, what would we take away, right? And let's just speak to this guy as a person. We have no hatred towards him. We think his work was a bit much. But hey, that's subjective, right? There'll be maybe 20 people out there that really liked it. There was a part in it which was a musical number, and the woman could not fucking sing, and it just so happened to be his wife. And during the episode, he was like, "She was so brilliant," and I went, "Aye." And that's it. That's the only sarcastic moment. We never said anything horrible about it. But the guy was nice. He was very nice, a very wealthy guy, so he had money to burn. But like I say, that was his journey, and maybe he goes on to make other films that are better than that. Just there are films worse than a shit film is a film that doesn't make you feel either way. That's the worst I find. See, when you're like, God, I need to sit through this. That's the worst type of film. At least if you're like, God, like see when I saw the bogey guy, like when I'm watching Nosepicker, when I saw the creature, I was like, ha yes. When I was watching him picking his nose, I was like, oh. So I was feeling, I was feeling things through it, and to me, that's true. Anything.
I was actually watching it with my friend earlier on, and every time he was picking his nose, and it was actually when you seen the shot under the desk where you could see them all stuck underneath the desk. He was like, huh?
It's a big long one. I'm like, that must be tickling his brain, man.
Actually, no.
It does look like he's pulling out his brain. I don't think we intended to for the thing to be quite that extreme, but once we had it on film, I was just like, I'm sorry, but
I'm assuming that was just wrapped up at this side of his face, and it was just.
I can't tell you. I can't tell you.
It's a secret.
It's like, no, we just stuffed it right up his fucking brain.
Yeah, I would have loved to have gotten a shot from the front, but it was impossible. I really like it when, as much as I'm kind of surprised by people saying that Nosepicker is disgusting, I like it when people have a bit of a queasy reaction to it, because it means that they're engaging with the story and with the events on screen as if they were happening. Whereas when I was putting it together, I was like, oh my God, it looks so fake. They're gonna say this is plasticine. We're gonna be totally busted, and it's because I was there throughout the making of every last prop, and I know what was in it. And to me, for a long time, that's all I could see. And when people are like, oh my God, pile of bogeys, I'm like, yes, we got him.
Definitely.
At one point, the little kind of bogey sculpture he was making kind of started looking like a wee mushroom cloud. And it was just like, this is just minging to look at. It was proper minging.
The image in my head that was, and when Joe Dante saw it, he pegged this straight away, which I really appreciated because he's the fucking man. But like in my head was the building of the mashed potato from Close Encounters.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea of like he's being called, he's being summoned by a force beyond his control, and that's why he knows he needs to build this. He can't figure out why he's doing it. This compulsion is mixing with the whatever force is dragging him there.
Very good. I like it.
I like it.
Aye. So, I kind of, before I let you go to catch the end of the football game,
it's done.
People doing this.
Is it actually done? Oh,
it's done.
It turns out it's no coming home.
Maybe they're going to do penalties. I don't know.
No, 2-1. No, 2-1.
It's 2-1. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, full time 2-1.
What is there anything, whether it be a sequel, a feature, or something in the same universe as Nosepicker, will we see anything from Nosepicker again in the future?
I would rather not, because I'm not a big sequel guy unless the thing calls for a sequel. Now, sometimes you can have happy accidents with that. Like, I suppose I'm happy that the Halloween universe exists, but if Halloween just was one movie, I'd be fine with it.
Yeah,
totally.
Right? I would like to do. You know, it'd be great is if, like, if somebody saw it and said, "Oh, we should hire you to assemble a team of directors like you who are making films like yours, and we're going to give you Netflix money to go and make a reboot, Tales of the Unexpected." A bit like the way they gave Jordan Peele the shot at doing Twilight Zone. Now, it didn't work out. Like, he didn't do a very good job with Twilight Zone, sadly. But that kind of thinking is kind of the thinking I wish that studios would put into filmmakers who make like a one-off, instead of kind of trying to extend the universe. Because I think to some extent, when you extend the universe, you have a great idea for it, fine. But there's a danger that you can destroy the mystique as well.
Yeah, totally. I
was going to say there's no Carrie 2, but I think there is a Carrie 2. Just
I think most of those directors and writers have been on this show, so if that ever happened, we can hook you all up together. Essentially, the Expendables of what would make that great. And I agree with you.
Don't jinx it by saying Expendables, because, like, you know, those films aren't very good. But the team is assembling. Put it that way.
Exactly. You know, where you said there about Halloween, I totally agree with you that I agree with that it exists, but I do understand like the importance of the first one. Do you like for me, the Danielle Harris era of Halloween films? Because I feel they get shat on, and they're not as bad as what people make out. I don't think. Like 4 onwards. Third one was actually class, by the way. It's a shame that it was a Halloween film.
Third one's great, but that's
it.
that's okay.
That's right.
Treat that like a story and an anthology, and that's why it works. Because we're gonna take the flavor and take it into a whole different universe. The fact they didn't explain it is why nobody got it and why nobody liked it.
I know.
I don't really have a strong memory of like of 4 onwards. What I will say is like and then there's the like H2O and all that, which I don't really care for.
I still enjoyed that.
It's fine, but it's kind of like it's so far removed from anything. It's just a.
I get that.
If I'm going to scratch that itch, I might as well watch Scream.
Yeah,
that's what I really want to be. That's what I really want to be watching. If I want that kind of sophisticated 90s throwback thing. I don't really care for the David Gordon Green ones. What I do like. It's the most efficient kind of kill machine, but I just think it's kind of it's almost ugly in its efficiency. What I do like, and why I'm almost glad to have the extended universe, even if I don't like some of the individual films, is I like the Rob Zombie ones, and I think he basically took fan fiction to an art, and even Halloween 2, he takes he basically remakes a lot of the same ideas that are in the original Halloween 2, which is like back fag packet, John Carpenter's 3 bottles of whiskey deep, doing it for the paycheck kind of stuff, and he treats it like it's biblical prophecy, and that kind of passion in it like takes really flimsy ideas and blows them up to an operatic level. So that's actually an idea of a happy accident spun off of an unnecessary cash-in, which I think is kind of beautiful.
Totally.
That's very, very well put. I like that. Happy accident spun off.
We should do a full episode dedicated to those type of films where we can identify where it shouldn't have been as good as it was. You know, it's like this should have sucked, but didn't.
Hang on, I know there should be a long list of those, but what comes to mind when you say that? What are the ones?
Films. Well, I loved Terminator 3.
Oh God. Okay.
I've got a thing.
I tell you what, I really wanted to love Terminator 3. The thing that disappointed me the most about Terminator 3 was they advertised it as, okay, this is a movie about Judgment Day. This is a movie about the bombs going off. And I think it came out like the year after Sum of All Fears, which kind of like was supposed to be the nuclear bomb action movie and kind of dropped the ball a little bit. I thought, okay, Terminator 3, they're going to fucking deliver and we're going to see the fallout of the bomb. And then what happened was they basically treaded water for an hour and a half. And then the bomb happened at the end. It's just like, well, the trailer was more exciting than that.
Yeah. Well, look at Salvation. What did you think of that? Because
I don't remember it. I just remember being like, this is very technically sophisticated, but boring as shit.
I would give that to you. I'll give that to you. I think
that was the one with Christian Bale and what's his name?
Sam Worthington.
Sam Worthington.
Right. And I think he was
in Horizon, an American Saga Part 1, by the way.
Which have you seen that yet?
Yep.
How is it?
I saw it before it got yanked from cinemas almost immediately. Yes.
Oh no.
Well, we're getting rid of that. Why is it being yanked from cinemas?
Because nobody went to see it.
Well, that's why I'm
Makes
yanking
sense.
it. That's true. I don't think it's been. The thing is,
you're in charge of the scheduling.
No. I thought no. The thing is, I thought he said it was yanked, as in like pulled from the distributors, and I thought that's not happened to me yet. I'm just panning it. Like I'm actually.
Oh, you're just getting rid.
I know enough footfall on that one, but the thing is, like,
but the second one isn't coming out now. The second one is not getting released in cinemas.
Oh, come on!
But the thing is,
a 3-hour western with Kevin Costner. We've been waiting on one of those for years.
The marketing. See if they marketed it like to all the folk that watch Yellowstone, they would have got that crowd. But I just think it's come out of nowhere. They've really slacked on the marketing on that. There's not really a hype about it. What is right now doing the numbers and what's hyped to hell is Longlegs, that, and obviously Despicable Me 4.
Yeah, did you guys see Longlegs?
Not yet, but I cannot wait. I actually run cinemas, and I can't actually get in because I've got no time all the time. But I have to make some time this week to go and see it on the big screen because I've only heard phenomenal. Have you seen it?
I have seen it, yeah.
And is it living up to its hype to you?
To me, no. But it's entirely possible that I'm wrong. I would love to see it again and be blown away by it. But I can't really discuss it until you've seen it because that wouldn't be fair.
All my friend said about it was movie of the year for me, mate. And he said people will dress up as a character from this the same way they do with Michael Myers, the same way they do as Pennywise. This has created something that has longevity. Would that be fair to say? Is he right?
Long legacy.
I don't like to predict the future. Number one, two. I don't know. Maybe. I thought it was effective in the moment. I'm really surprised to hear people talk about it in these kind of like really grave tones because it didn't. You know what? I can't do it. I think this is a conversation we had when we can talk openly about it.
Right.
I don't want to poison the well for anybody because I know people have gone and been blown away by the movie, and I don't want to shit on that anyway.
Well, we'll need to get you back on very soon to chat about clearly other movie topics, including Longlegs, because I feel like we could talk forever about so many different things. You're cut from the same cloth as we are. We can tell just by the way we stray into the woods. But it's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah,
watching Nosepicker.
100%. Send me the films you guys have made as well. I want to see.
Yeah. J Mack's in both of them. We had to find something for him to do. But we'll definitely cover anything that you're involved in coming up. I mean, the previous short film, The Worm of Plaplambarra. I always get it wrong.
You're so close. Bulk Pen Barras.
That's it. That was brilliant. Loved it.
Okay.
And Nosepicker was great as well. And I urge everybody to go and watch Nosepicker. You can see Nosepicker. Oh, Janice is like, yes. You see that? Janice is here.
There she is.
Everybody's away watching the football.
Janice never told us where in Indiana she's from. I do want to tell you a funny story about the last time I was in Indiana. I was sitting in I was on a big road trip across America, but I had to sit and do some work in a Panera in, I think it was Lawrence, Indiana. And I saw a guy who looked just like Stanley Kubrick. Like he had the fucking raincoat and everything of like Stanley Kubrick when he quote unquote died. But if Stanley Kubrick's alive, I swear to God, he's hiding out in the Panera in Lawrence, Indiana. I got a photo of him, and if I find it, I'll send it to you. And I swear to God,
please.
I've never seen such a lookalike. So maybe he never died. He just wanted some peace. He wanted to go down on the between Bloomington and Indianapolis. Okay.
I don't even
know.
Not Lawrence.
Well, she's close to a big city, which is good because there's a lot of basically like semi-flatland in Indiana. I quite like it.
Indiana.
All the Midwest is very flat and
open.
So yeah, there's a lot of like farmland and interstate, so you have to get to at least a town to kind of like have any interaction with the world.
Well, it's not bad actually getting Janice.
Martinsville, I'm going to look it up.
Martinsville. Janice, you want to give us your door number just so we can say?
I can take your VHS tape of Nosepicker.
No, it's zombie tit rippers too. That's how this works. No, I'm kidding. You know, not too long ago, I was in talks with a distribution company about potentially doing short films as part of features. So imagine you go to buy a feature, right? And say an Arrow edition. It wasn't Arrow I was speaking to, but say it was an Arrow edition. But in there, you're getting a bonus short film purely just because you've bought the physical media. I think that would be a great idea, a great way of getting. And I think Arrow are doing a great job right now as well by putting actual short films on their streaming service, which you can buy $4.99. That's less than a coffee.
Hey, that's a good plug for Arrow. I wholly second that. I mean, it's really Alan, who is the short film programmer of Arrow, is really doing the Lord's work. The streaming service is excellent. I mean, they have even though Arrow are going kind of more and more genre, and like not even horror genre, but like a lot of action-y type stuff with their DVD releases. There's still a lot of horror streaming service, and there's still a lot of kind of unexpected wild card stuff, kind of more from their artsy days. I like it a lot, and actually I watched a short film on there last night, which was my friend Julia Marquez's adaptation of the Stephen King story, I Know What You Need, which it's a 45-minute short film, which you very rarely see because they don't make them because TV companies aren't commissioning them anymore. That was a really cool thing to see.
We were sent that. We'll be doing interviews for that very thing on our next. We actually have the screener for that, so we're actually really looking forward to that one.
Excellent. Yeah, it's quite, it's quite engrossing in the way that a Stephen King story is. I mean, I wish Keith Gordon had been around to play the male lead because he would have been great in it. He may be a little old for it now, yeah, Arrow's very good, and I like that idea. And I also miss when you would go to the cinema and they would put a short film. Do you remember Virgin Shorts, for example? Like that was the little shorts contest they have, and they would put little short film before the feature, and when they used to put cartoon film before them. I wish at film festivals, instead of doing the short film programs where you sit through like 10-minute films that it feels like Death by 1,000 cuts, they would take those films, they would put them across the program, and you get your little appetizer before the main course. I think that's the best way to watch a short film. That or late at night on TV or whatever. Do they just come out and they kind of surprise you?
Because I run a couple independent cinemas. Actually, for the last couple of years, I've been really fortunate enough to take lots of independent films that were never offered to us through the mainstream, and I built another screen within the actual cinema purely to play.
What's your main cinema that you run?
Oh, I've got one. Well, I run one in Arbroath right now in Alloa. It's in Scotland, but I had one in Bathgate, which is a booming town. But cinema industry is on its arse, as we're all aware. But at the time when we had Bathgate, I created literally such a nice, cozy screen, and we played for so many different independent films that one was a great way to get people paid within the industry, in a thankless industry, and two, it was great because people would come in and I'd have all the assets up for these films that they're like, I've no heard of this. It's like, of course you've not. Okay, well, I'll pop back in this week. I'm always looking for new things, and so many different films were watched that way. I think if the big chain's done that, it would be class. However, every cinema right now is in trouble. That's the reality of it, because the cinema industry is down 45% from last year. It's on its arse, and I think the big boys are to really blame for that and COVID. But
well, I mean, like, the kind of thing you're talking about didn't used to be that. I mean, I remember the Odeon used to play like a much wider range of films when I was in my teens and my 20s, and just it steadily got more revolving around Avengers movies. And when that bubble burst, they got nothing left, and everybody's just at home watching Netflix. So what the hell did they expect to happen? The more every investor knows you're supposed to diversify your portfolio, but that's not what the cinema industry's done, and they fucked themselves. I thought Top Gun Maverick was supposed to have saved cinema, but that's so.
It done so well. It done great. Do you know what the real saving grace was of last year? Barbie.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Honestly, we made much.
Top Gun, and then the whole Barbenheimer phenomenon, and then there hasn't been one this year. I did.
I still haven't. I can't bring myself to watch Barbie.
Oh, it's a good movie. I mean, it was nicer to see, like, at the time when it was it was almost like you were going to a theater show. Like, everybody was in the right mood for it.
Oh, definitely. I had people coming dressed up. Like, people were coming, it was an event rather than a film. And Inside Out 2 and Despicable Me 4, these are the ones right now that they're doing really well. Unfortunately, horror does 30% of anything else. Horror's like a risk. I believe in horror, but I get in trouble sometimes when I program in a horror that no one's ever heard of, and I'm like, give it a chance.
I think in multiplexes, though, it's traditionally quite dependable, isn't it? Like, it'll never
big cities, maybe.
It'll have a high floor, right?
Yeah, and like the cities, definitely. Where we're at, it doesn't do the best. The best are always kids' films, and it used to be 60% of the market was Disney. That was where you would get 60% of your income, but Disney have put it all for nothing on, well, not for nothing, but on their Disney Plus, straight to Disney Plus and whatnot. And believe it or not, but nobody wants to watch Disney anymore. We're not, like, they're done seeing a live action version of something. You know, it's like, give us something creative.
Well, I mean, you say that, but Inside Out 2 is doing really well. It's Pixar, Disney, so.
Well, that's what it's the second one of something that was very original. So you know what I mean. Mulan, for me, I turned on and 5 minutes later turned it off. Why? Because Mulan is running up fucking buildings like as a child.
I actually haven't seen any of those live action remakes of the films because, like, who the fuck wants to see that shit? It's just such an objectionable idea. And they, for a while, they were like a license to print money. Every last one of those movies, ones I don't 100%. Even remember coming out, were making like over $1 billion each. It's just like, what the fuck is happening? This is what I'm talking about when I talk about we're in this kind of era where all the kind of nostalgic culture totems are being reproduced, and we don't feel like anything new's happening, even though we're in an era technologically where so many new things should be happening.
Yeah, totally.
But what the kind of like legacy media companies are feeding us is not that. It's just reproduction.
Yeah, it's gutting. But hey, what goes around comes back around, and I think as long as we've got guys like yourself continuously creating and just fighting the good fight, that's how innovation happens. That's where some of the greatest movies ever came from. With someone going, you know, I'm going to try this, and you find as well a lot of the greatest films were cult. There were things that didn't come out straight away and, you know, kick the doors open. But one guy sent a VHS to his pal, and that guy shared, and before you know it, we've got Rocky Horror Picture Show and the never-ending story. You know, absolute classics. Yeah.
Maybe that's what Arsewiper will be when we get around to it.
Please make Arsewiper. If you make Arsewiper, I'll put money into it.
We'll start a GoFundMe.
I feel like if I just make films about bodily fluids and kind of self-retention, then my therapist will have a lot to say about it.
That, and you'll get typecast.
Yeah, exactly.
No, definitely. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Like I said, you can come back on anytime. We should definitely hook up and chat about more when it comes to different film series where we can really debate the crux. I'm a believer in sequels as well. I like sequels, certain sequels. But J Mac usually has got something to say about stuff like Terminator 3 and all that fun stuff. But I
thought you guys were a little bit generous to Axel F, by the way. I didn't care for it so much. But...
Really? Oh, no, I thought mate, Shooter McGavin.
He's like, what?
That's
for me. That was for me. It's for people like me.
Do you know what the funniest joke I thought in it was when he does the we're location scouts for the Liam Neeson action movie Impound.
that was pretty decent, and it's funny you can believe that was out there as well. That those type of people exist all in Hollywood, probably.
Yeah.
Aye. No, it goes to show. That's
I liked it. I liked it.
It'd be interesting to pick your brain a bit more about some of your favorite films next time.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, I've really enjoyed this conversation, guys.
Same.
I'm sure it was better than watching that football match anyway. They all look very sad right
now. I think Scottish are happy tonight.
I don't mind. I'm half Irish, half Indian, so like,
nice.
You know, if the English won it, I'd be like, that's nice for you guys. That's cool. But if they lose, fuck them.
Yeah, make sure we sound clip that one.
What was the last thing I sound clipped for you, J Mac? Remember you were like, don't sound clip that.
Yeah, I remember it was me quoting Falcor for the never ending story, saying I like children, which was a mistake. He's probably going to do it again.
I'm not. I don't have it to hand, but it's there.
But it's been great, Ian. Thanks very much for your time, and we look forward to speaking to you again.
Definitely. Anybody that wants, definitely. Anybody that wants to watch this can easily go to Alter. In fact, you don't even need to. Just go to YouTube, type in Nosepicker short film. It will come up. But it is in the comments here, and it will be in the description for Spotify and everything like that. So make sure you go and please leave a review in the comments so that Ian can go and see your review of his film and make sure to support Ian. they can find you on Instagram. Do you want everybody to follow you on Instagram?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I use social media fitfully, but sometimes I'm on there. Yeah.
Yeah, not a problem. So yeah, just type in his name, Ian Mantgani, and you'll find him. He's there, and we've tagged him in a load of stuff. So go to our social media, you'll find him there. Keep up to date with everything that Ian's doing, and we'll look forward to having you back on the show, my friend.
Nice one, guys.
Thanks again, guys, and we shall see you next week where we are reviewing In a Violent Nature, which should be fun. You've seen that, haven't you?
I haven't seen it yet. I'm looking forward to it.
Want me to send you a screener?
No, I want to see it on the big screen. I want to be there.
Fair dues. I understand that wholeheartedly. Thanks again, guys, and we'll see you next Sunday at 9 p.m. Cheers again, Ian. Thanks.
Good night, guys.
Take it easy, guys. All right.